Hello, everyone, and welcome to Crypto Atlas. In this episode, we are going to be talking about Decentralized Foundation. Just a quick little disclaimer, this is a sponsored video, but I got some great news. I've actually talked with their team, and we have a very special giveaway. You're going to find out more information about that here in just a moment from their own team member, who we do have a guest. You can clearly see him up above. Hello, we're going to get to you there in just a moment. And also, quick disclaimer, everyone, as usual, just making my statement, I am not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. Everything I'm sharing is my own opinion. It's my own research. I highly, highly encourage you to go do your own research. And as usual, I'll be providing the resource material where you can go and look up a lot more information on their project in the description. That'll include their website, as well as their Twitter account, as well as a link over to their white paper here, and also to their Discord. So you have those readily available for you. And before we roll into the questions, I'm going to go ahead and introduce Desai. Desai, it's very nice to meet you. Can you tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do with the project, and what's going on with this awesome giveaway?
Awesome. So, my real name is Tiago, but most people on the internet here, they know me as Desai or Dazai. And I have a page where I share information about crypto in general, and people like to hear what I say, apparently. And I also have this project, Decentralized Foundation, and I am the founder. I've been working on it for a long time. And so just excited to be here and really thanks for having me. And about the giveaway, we're going to give away 3 Sapphire nodes. And so they're worth about 50 a pop right now, although now you can't even get it anymore because they're part of the first pre-sale, which is sold out. But once the project launches, the default price is going to increase. So they're actually worth a fair bit more. So.
And if you want to find out more information, especially if you want to enter in for that giveaway, there will be a link down in the comments below this video. You can go down there and find that. It's going to actually take place over on Twitter. So obviously, we're here to learn more about your project. I've got a series of questions that I prepared for you. Excuse me, right there. And I think we are ready to go. So the first thing is, can you tell us a little bit about your project?
Right. So in order for all of you to understand what the project is about, it's helpful to give a bit of my background, which is, so I started getting into kind of the node space in December, like more or less. And so there was Ring, that was the entire thing, and I invested into that. And then there was also a Strong Block, and then Thor started to appear, and all the others. And so I was really into that, and something that popped into my mind at the time was that DeFi moves such an insane amount of money that it's just absurd, basically. And I was like, why isn't this money trying to be leveraged a little bit in order to make the world a better place? Like, there's basically almost no charity elements in DeFi. Obviously there is, but it's very rare. And so because I was in this node space in particular, that just didn't existed at all back then. The only thing that was kind of close was Olympus DAO, but it was kind of separate. Like it had no incentive whatsoever. And so I was like, that was the first thing that popped into my mind is that there was no project with the charity elements. And so that started bubbling into my head of maybe starting one. And then another thing that's made this project is also that I started to notice that a lot of these node projects are not sustainable, like in the slightest. Like they're made very badly to just make a quick buck, especially for the founders. And so I started also being very vocal about this back in January on my Twitter page. And so that also emphasized a lot to my mind of like really making my own project, which is like I can make something awesome that is sustainable, and also give to charity. And so, and another thing that I wanted was to be very, very transparent. So a lot of these projects, they have really bad communication. They don't exactly tell you how things are running, what are the plans, and so I never liked that. And so with us, everything will be fully transparent. The charities will be fully transparent. The treasury will be completely public, and even our expenses are fully public. So like if you go to our Discord, you will see where we're spending each cent. So that even includes the team members, and it even us, the founders, how much we're getting paid. Now, right now, the amount that we're getting paid is zero, but once we're startly finally getting compensated, once the project launches, you'll be able to see that as well. And so those kind of three pillars is kind of what starts with the project. So the charity element, sustainability, and transparency. And so and kind of the way that we're going to do that is that especially the sustainability element is by really controlling the reward emission, which is huge problem for all these protocols. And we can get a bit more into that later. And also by having an actual plan of how to get out of this node phase, because this node phase acts as kind of like a fundraising model, and it works very well for that. But that has to be short term, otherwise it doesn't work. And so that's kind of like the background of how the project came to be and what we're trying to do.
Yeah, I'm very interested in the whole node space, and I really started diving into that primarily around in January. But fundamentally, at some point, they have to add in something besides just that element, because otherwise you encounter hyperinflation and it just runs amok. The price goes into the toilet, and finding proper utility, finding ways to combat all that stuff, it's definitely an important aspect. And as it is now, having that just as sort of an introductory phase, I think is what some projects are definitely pursuing. And it's very creative how a lot of different projects are finding ways to use one mechanic for a short time period and then adjusting over to something else, and just being able to get the initial exposure or evolving these aspects. It's very creative. My next question for you is, what are your long-term goals?
Right. So our long-term goal is to simply work as a farming service where we go on DeFi, we get the best yields that we can for a decent amount of risk, and then we distribute that to the holders. And so what we call the phase one of the project, which is the node phase, that serves so that we grow our treasury a lot, and then we can kickstart that. And so our goal is basically to be able to leverage DeFi for you without you having to worry a lot for it. Because, for example, and I'll give myself as a personal investor. So like I like DeFi, but like I have a lot of other stuff in my life besides DeFi. And I'm really not a fan of like trying to search projects for hours on ends just so that I can understand it and then put some money into it so that I can put some money back. Like if I could make the same amount of money without having to worry about that as much, that would be amazing. So that's what I'm trying to do with DeFi in the long term, is that we're gonna have sort of like an ETF, right? So it's like we're gonna do all the diversification for you, all the research for you, and then you just get paid and you have nothing to worry about. So that's our goal in the long term.
And I know we could see you very clearly on the screen, and you gave us your name earlier. But as far as for the rest of your team, are they doxed? Are they KYC'd?
Yeah. So our entire team is doxed except the mods, but like everyone that you'll see on that page is doxed in terms of the developers and whatnot, and everyone is KYC'd as well. So we actually KYC'd 6 people, which is very unusual.
And all six of them are in the white paper?
Uh, I,
Let's
I
see.
I think in the
Four,
white paper.
5, 6.
Oh yeah, okay.
And my next question is, do you have an audit?
We don't have an audit yet because we haven't launched yet, and our smart contract is still being done. But that should be completed in the next few weeks, and then we will do have an audit. We're not 100% sure on which service to go with because we're still in talks debating the pros and cons and whatnot. But regardless of which one will go, we'll definitely have an audit from a reputable company.
And as far as for the charity aspects, where can we see the proof after the donations are sent to the charities?
Hmm. So that that will actually be a little complicated because we're still trying to sort out if we can donate to these charities to with crypto directly, which would be amazing. But obviously, we're relying on their infrastructure. and it's still not 100% clear how that bridge will happen. So, but if they accept crypto, then it's amazing, and we'll simply literally post the transaction that was made, and then obviously it's a blockchain, everything is public. That's amazing. If we can't make a crypto transaction, that will be a bit more difficult, but we'll still get there. We'll just have to convert it to fiat, and then we'll just post proof of the donation, and then we'll show it to everyone.
And what are you doing different from a typical node project? For example, nodes as a service.
Well, so there's actually two different things. So there's nodes as a service, and nodes as a service it's kind of like the strong block model, which other ones eventually try to follow and mimic. So and that's running real nodes, RPC endpoints. And to be quite honest, like that just doesn't work. Like it's a beautiful vision, but in terms of the sustainability of the profit that you're getting has the protocol, it just doesn't work because the profit is very low. And if you're giving very high rewards, then that just doesn't work. And that's why maybe strong block and very few others can pull it off by building a chain, building an entire ecosystem around it. But like your typical project that just has RPC endpoints, like that means basically nothing, and it just doesn't help the project at all. Now, if you mean DeFi has a service, which was kind of like this ring branch that created that's we identify with more in the sense that our goal isn't to run real nodes, but simply that nodes is kind of like a way to raise initial funding. What we're doing differently than that is simply that our model is a lot more sustainable than all the others by a very, very long shot. And the way that we do that is simply by the fact that our rewards are a lot more conservative. Because like the whole problem with all these nodes, all these DeFi has a service that we call them nodes. Kind of the promise is that we give you money and then we farm money for you, and then that kind of helps keep the corporate protocol going. But everyone that's doing that is doing that with such high rewards that it's basically impossible to get money anywhere else to match it. So that's the huge problem. So we're fixing that by just simply we don't have such a high reward rate because that's just unrealistic. So like we're here for people that actually want something long term, and that's just not gonna pay out. And we're gonna do that by conservative rewards, like we said. We're also gonna implement tapers. So like after every time you get your return on investment in tokens, say by 100 tokens, when you get 100 tokens back, your reward rate decreases by 20%. And that happens every time. And so that avoids the exponentiality that a lot of these projects experience, because a lot of people talk about that's the projects encourage compounding and whatnot, and that works to reduce sell pressure in the beginning, but that doesn't solve the sell pressure long term, and it actually makes it worse because then the emissions for that particular investor are now higher, and so this whole thing snowballs, and then that's how the token price just goes to absolute thing.
And do you have any
With
liquidity that's locked? If you do, for how long?
Right. So our liquidity isn't locked because it hasn't. We're still in the pre-sale phase, and we haven't added the liquidity yet. But we will lock the liquidity, and we'll likely lock the liquidity for, in total, probably around 6 to 8 months, something like that. It's still a bit hard to determine, because we'll eventually transition to phase two, which won't be based on the token anymore. That will be kind of like our utility phase where there's no more nodes. And once we reach that point, we actually want to use the liquidity for the treasury, for the investments, because otherwise it's just money sitting there not doing nothing. And so we can't lock the liquidity for a very long time because then we wouldn't do anything with it, and it's just wasted money basically.
I noticed that you have a very interesting, it's a staking lottery system. I noticed that through the white paper predominantly. Can you explain more about how that system works?
Right. So, in order to understand the lottery system, I'll actually explain phase two first. So, phase two is kind of how we establish true sustainability, and the way that's going to work is that right now in this node phase, when you buy a yield gem, which is what we call our node, you get the rewards, right? And then once you get those rewards, you have two options. You either get the rewards and then you sell them like any other token, like any other node project. But we also have an alternative, which is like you put those tokens into our vault. We call it the phase two vault. And how many tokens you put into that vault compared to how many tokens in total there is in the vault, that determines your allocation for phase two, which is a profit sharing model. And so after this phase one is all completed, we move to phase two, which is a treasury sharing model. And what's going to happen is that all the profits are going to be divided across the vault holders based on their proportion. And so what that means, one, is that you can actually participate in that phase two, right? But that participation is directly, how do I say this? There's a trade-off between the sell pressure and the vault, because if people don't care about the vault and no one is putting their tokens there, they're just selling it off, right? That means that the price goes down, there's sell pressure, but the vault is almost empty. That means that if you, as an investor, put the tokens in the vault, then all of a sudden you have a huge allocation of the treasury, which is very, very, very good for you, right? But if the opposite happens, if everyone's putting in the vault, then there's not a great opportunity for you to put it in the vault because it's kind of overcrowded already. You won't get a great allocation. But that also means that because the tokens are locked, that the sell pressure is very low. And so you still get a great profit by just selling the token normally. So there's this very good dynamic. Now, in terms of the staking system, is that the vault kind of acts as a staking pool, and we're going to have weekly lotteries for people that are into the vault. And so we do that to encourage people to lock up their tokens so that there's reduced sell pressure. And we're just going to do that with just literally real money. So like we're going to donate X amount of DAI, for example, or whatever, and that's going to run out every week just to kind of because if you have the tokens in the vault, then you're not getting profit right now. Like you're kind of betting on phase two later down the line. So this is just something to emphasize to kind of incentivize the holders.
And what would you say is your biggest thing that you believe will help keep Decentralized Foundation's price sustainable over time?
Mm-hmm. Right. So that's basically what I just described with phase two, right? Because there's this dynamic, which is if everyone is selling the token, then suddenly it becomes very profitable not to sell the token because you can put it in the vault and then you have huge access to our big treasury, right? But even that's the reason that the true magic of DeFi is that precisely we don't have to keep the price sustainable for a very long time because eventually the price of it will be irrelevant. Because the way that these node protocols work is that the buy pressure is very disproportional to your sell pressure as an investor, which obviously adds up with all the investors. And so over time, when you stretch that in time, because you keep selling the token, just drives it down and down and down. And so even with our system, like it's impossible to keep the price in a good range for a very, very long time. And so the way that we're going to fix that is by simply that we won't run for a very long time. We'll run for some months, maybe up to a year. We're still kind of deciding exactly when to make the transition, but we'll eventually make the transition and then the price will be just completely irrelevant.
Well, that's all of the questions that I had prepared. I would like to ask you if there's anything else that comes to your mind that you didn't end up talking about that you would like to talk about before we wrap up the video.
I think I covered most of the big points. Obviously, there's some extra stuff about the protocol. If you're interested, if people are interested, they can read our white paper. They can come to Discord, ask questions if they want. But kind of what I would really like to emphasize is that we're not the typical project that's here to just make a quick buck. Like us, the founders, we're getting very, very little money from this. Right now, it's literally zero. And we're doing this for the long term. Like I love nodes, I love DeFi. That's why I'm doing this. And we want people that have a very long-term vision. And so if that's you, then you're very welcome to join us.
Well, as far as joining, I'm very happy that you joined because everyone gets to see just how passionate that you really are about your own project. And I can clearly see it. And I'm hoping that other viewers will be able to see that too. And if they have more questions, as I had noted earlier, there will be a link in the description to their Twitter account. You can go look up their website. I'll include a link over for their white paper as well. And dang, man, that is bright white. I'm just kidding. And then also a link over to the Discord. So thank you again so much to Zai for popping in, being able to answer these questions. Don't forget, guys, you have an incredible giveaway opportunity. There's a link down in the comments below, which you'll find out that giveaway information over on Twitter. So thank you so much, everyone. Again, I'm not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. Go do your own research. If you're new to the channel, do not forget to hit subscribe. Hit the thumbs up like button. It does help us out with the YouTube search algorithm. Click the bell icon. God bless, and I will see you in the next episode.